Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited for this episode. I just feel like I've got some fiery opinions to come at you guys with. I think you're gonna love it. I think you're gonna find that this episode really calls you up. It might call you out, but it's also really calling you up to raise your standards, to show up for yourself even more, and to just call out where you've had behaviors that are contradicting what you're really saying that you want in life. I posted a reel on this topic and it filled my DMs. People definitely got more chatty after I talked about it. And I think it's so relevant to what this podcast is really about. What the reel was saying, and what I'm going to say to you here, is that the soft girl era is dead. 2025 is very likely not your year to be a soft girl if you're wanting to become unrecognizable this year. I don't think the soft girl era is necessarily a bad thing. And if you don't know what the soft girl era is, it's kind of the best way to describe it is when you're in a season of really wanting to embrace more self-care and prioritizing peace and more calm and just slowing down, I guess. That's kind of how I would describe it. And that's not a bad thing. I am all for self-care. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about it here. But I think why I'm saying that it's dead is because I think why people often chose in 2024 to say that they were in their soft girl era came from a dysregulated or just fearful place. What I really think is that many in 2024 chose this soft girl era because deep down, they didn't think that they were actually capable of hitting their goals. I coached over 100 women last year, and many people came to me either being in the soft girl era or trying to get out of the soft girl era. And what happened with so many of them is they chose that route almost as an escape. They didn't choose to prioritize self-care and peace because that's just really what they wanted. It's mostly because they burned out in the past trying to succeed. And this became kind of like this viral trend that gave people a lot of permission to slip into avoiding discomfort in the name of self-care. I truly am all about, and I'm going to have some reels coming out the next week around self-care. I'm all for self-care. But if you have accidentally used self-care to take a break from your life, to give yourself almost like a permission slip to go off the hook because you feel like you can't handle it, that's not self-care. Self-care is actually refueling you to help you keep going. It's eating well, sleeping enough, moving your body, almost like those non-negotiables. If your soft girl era, or even honestly just your year of 2024, you said you were all about self-care, but really what you were doing was sleeping in because you scrolled TikTok too much, saying that you quote unquote deserve purchases because you applied yourself for 30 minutes, or skip what you said you do because quote unquote self-care, that's not actually self-care. That is what I'm saying, where you were just avoiding discomfort. And again, it often comes because you burnt out. Or it was almost this excuse or reason to coddle yourselves, to avoid work. And if your 2024 wasn't what you wanted it to be, maybe you did not say the soft girl era. Maybe you're a guy listening to this and you're like, I have no idea what this is. But overall, if you just didn't have the 2024 that you wanted because you let yourself down, because you didn't show up, because you didn't go all in, this is relevant. This is relevant, okay? But if you want to become completely unrecognizable this year, this episode's for you. It is wildly possible, and I want to say that. So let's kind of get into that. It is wildly possible for you to do it. I've done it multiple times myself, and I'm doing it again this year. It's a really big focus for me, and so much of you guys have told me that you want to see the inside scoop. You want to see more of it. You want to see what I'm doing behind the scenes. And so this episode is going to show you a little bit of what my mentality is, the way I check in with myself to make sure that I am on track to become unrecognizable. And just to give you guys a little context, a little backstory before we go into it, I have become unrecognizable multiple times before. So I remember it was the start of one year that I was living at home with my parents. I was crying in corporate bathrooms. I thought I was in a toxic relationship. I literally thought that it was impossible for me to make friends. By the end of that year, I was living in San Francisco with a whole new friend group and absolutely loving my life. The year after that, I did it again. I became completely unrecognizable. I went from working in corporate, living in San Francisco, waking up, I think it was like starting work at 4:45 a.m. Starting work at 4:45 a.m. for my job because my clients were on the East Coast. So anyway, I started that year in corporate, but by the end of that year, I had become a multiple six-figure business owner who worked for herself. I was full-time. I was 25 years old. That year I had my first $50,000 sales month. I was working with people around the globe. It's just crazy. And the things that I was able to do that year. And 18 months before that, I was depressed, tears, lost, and completely hopeless. I really want you guys to know that becoming unrecognizable is very, very available to you. Oftentimes, the reason that we're not doing it is because it feels very daunting, it feels very big, and we're not quite ready for it. Instead of thinking of it as this big, big thing, though, what I've done every single time is think about the day to day. Thinking about the day to day, and that's what we're really going to get into here. And I want to say that I'm becoming unrecognizable again this year. I actually adore my life. I was sitting in the sauna today on my gym, and I was thinking about how at the end of this year, I don't actually expect a lot of things to drastically change. I don't expect a lot of things to look drastically different, but I want the up level. I want it to all be better. I want to raise the bar even higher. I just want to feel richer in every single area. Physically, I want to be way more fit. Mentally, I want to be so on top of my discipline game and my emotional regulation. Emotionally, I just want to be so much more tapped in to my belief in my faith. Financially, I want to up level so much. My relationships, I want to be way, way, way closer to, our next chapter together. And so if you feel like you've been in the same loop year after year, this is your wake-up call. I want you to start asking yourself these questions. Don't think about it as it becoming this like crazy transformation and everything's going to shift. I want you to think of it as truly just up-leveling. You're going to up-level in every area. And if you want it to transform, it will, it can. But we're going to start thinking about this on the day-to-day level. What I really want to share with you then is the 3 questions that I am thinking about every single day. I want you to know too, I'm an intense individual. I've gotten that feedback a lot, and it's very true. I'm just an intense individual. I go really hard. A perfect example was I was at just to give you context. And so these questions they're hardcore, but I take it with a grain of salt and apply it where you can. But my example was I was at boxing yesterday, and there were 3 girls in there. And they had come for a good time. They had come and they were chatting together and they were modifying the workout to make it more of like a pleasant thing. And I'm over there like giving it my all, punching these bags, like hitting as hard as I can. The instructor, like it's just, I'm intense. I'm not the girl who's going to go in and like take it easy. I'm the girl I'm going to push myself. I'm going to be a savage about things. That's just always been me. I've always just kind of been that person. I'm intense in a lot of ways. And so these are intense questions. I want you to run with it if they feel good. They are going to challenge you. They are going to push you. If you're up for it, cool, go with it. Do it. They're gonna get you really far. If you need to modify it a bit so you're like, I'm not feeling shame around this, because if you are feeling shame around this, go lighter. Take it from a more expansive angle, okay? But let's dive in. The first question that I love to ask myself is, am I outworking or keeping pace with the people who have what I want that I really respect and look up to? And the thing is that it's not just about hustle. If you hear this question and you're like, oh, it's just truly just pedal to the metal, working really long hours, that's not what I'm talking about. It's more about your mentality. It's about your standards. It's about your levels of determination. It's about your levels of belief. Because trust me, the people who have what they really want and what you want, they really believe in themselves. They don't tolerate self-sabotage. They don't tolerate giving themselves an out. They don't tolerate quitting. These are people who, whatever it is, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the things that you want, they have high standards for themselves. They're not going to let themselves, for example, get really distracted all day long. They're not going to let themselves dip into the drama of their emotional dysregulation. They're not going to tolerate doubting themselves and questioning if they can do it. They're not spending their time like that. They're determined. They're believing in themselves. They're showing up potently for what they want. They're really committing with a level of intentionality and even kind of intensity. So a perfect example of this is, are you going to the gym as much as you want to? Yes or no? Even if you are, a lot of people, what they do is they just show up. They show up and do the workout. That is different than showing up and giving it your all every workout. That's something I'm actively working on right now, is making sure that, because I'm already consistent. I do not struggle with consistency at the gym. I never really have for the last couple of years, at least. It's more about how intense can I make this? How consistently high can I raise this bar? So I want you to think through of like, am I keeping pace with the people who have what I want? Am I working as hard as them? Am I committed as much as them? Am I trying to strive for a really good quality and quantity of inputs so that I can get the quality and quantity of outputs that I want? What I find, I'm going to call you up, not out, I'm going to call you up. I find that a lot of people aren't doing this. They're being very passive on a day-to-day. They're doing maybe not the bare minimum, but they're doing an ordinary amount of effort, an ordinary amount of work, but expecting extraordinary results. And I'll even take this the more like spiritual route, is even if you're manifesting, even if you're like, I'm going to manifest, which manifestation takes action either way completely. But even if you're taking a more spiritual route as such, or even like, let's even say, if you're praying to God, praying for God to deliver something to you, praying for the universe to deliver something to you, are you focusing and are you really putting in the intentionality and the belief and the steps to even do that as much as you really want to be and as much as the people who are manifesting like crazy? I think a lot of people put in an average amount of work, a mediocre, ordinary amount of work, but really want the big results and then feel very upset that they don't have it. So this is really about, is your mentality, your standards, your determination, your belief levels consistently every single day at the level that you know they should be at and you want them to be at? That's the thing, not even should be at, the levels that you want them to be at. So that's a question I'm asking myself. Am I working as hard or keeping pace with the people who have what I want and who I really, really respect and look up to? And I'm going to give you kind of what I do if my answer is no at the end, but I'm going to get through the first 3 questions. So that's the first question. The second question that I ask myself is, am I keeping my word to myself daily on big and small things? Am I keeping my word to myself every single day on big and small things? Keeping your word to yourself, learning how to keep your word to yourself is such a fast way to build your self-worth, because what you're actually doing is living in congruence, living in integrity. You are being who you say you are. And when you can trust that who you say you are is who you actually are, you develop a lot of confidence. You know who you are. You don't question who you are because your actions, your behaviors, your patterns match who you want to be. I think we let ourselves off the hook a lot with this one too. And a perfect example actually is that I have a to-do list that I send my team every day. This is my to-do list. But even within that to-do list, that's a list I'm striving to hit. I also have a list within that to-do list that my team doesn't necessarily know about, but that is like I'm going to get this done. I'm going to keep my word to myself that I get this done. And then it's up to me to do that. Or I keep my word to myself that every single day, right now I'm in a season where every single day I'm spending a minimum. This is nothing. This is actually a very low bar. A minimum of 30 minutes on my content. I spend way more on that actually, but a minimum of that. And I'm doing that because even on weekends when I don't want to do it, but I am far surpassing that. That's the first thing. The second thing, I make sure that I move my body for 45 minutes a day. Non-negotiable. I don't care. I don't care if I'm traveling. I don't care if I have things going on. I don't care. If it has to be just me sitting my ass on the floor and doing it, that's what I'll do. I'm also doing a minimum of, I think it's like 20. I guess technically I've said 15, but it's been closer to like 30 minutes of tapping in with myself spiritually and emotionally. So I meditate a minimum of 10 minutes a day. I sometimes journal, not always. I don't really talk about this too much. I did grow up in a Roman Catholic Italian family, and something that I feel like people know this, but I don't think they actually do. I have nuns and priests in my family. And so what I told my favorite little nun in my family, I think she's 88. We love her. She's a chaotic, spunky nun. I told her I was going to read the Bible. So I've been trying to dedicate around 15 minutes of that a day. And it just makes me happy because I know I'm making her happy with that. But anyway, I keep my word to myself. And if I'm not keeping my word to myself, I better know why. I better have had a good ass reason. Because I think a lot of the times the reason that we are really struggling with confidence, we are really struggling with our self-worth, we are really struggling to believe in ourselves is because we can't even keep our word to ourselves on the small things. We can't even keep our word to ourselves that we're going to drink a certain amount of water a day, that we're going to hit a certain amount of steps a day, that we're going to not snooze today. Like even the smallest things, we do not, like we just don't prioritize our own word enough. And I want your word to be law. I want your word to be so freaking important to you. And especially if you're someone who, I have this a lot with my clients, your word is often more important to other people. What you say to other people is if you say you're going to do something for someone else, you do it. But why won't you do that with yourself? So the second question that I really want you starting to ask every day is, am I keeping my word to myself? Why didn't, and where did I let that down? And really just looking at that. Am I keeping my word to myself in big and small ways? The third question that I am asking myself every single day and that I want you to start asking yourself every single day is at the end of every day, am I proud of how I've shown up for myself and my goals today? Simple. Am I proud of how I've shown up for myself and my goals today? This actually is probably the simplest question, but will have the most convoluted answers. And the reason why is that we often don't want to make ourselves uncomfortable. We don't want to willingly put ourselves through more discomfort. And as a result, people actually struggle to be honest with themselves. And this works both ways. So I have a whole set of clients who will struggle to be honest with themselves because they're more used to being self-critical. So they're going to say that they're not proud of themselves when actually I don't even think that's true a lot of the time. I think they are proud that they got in a lot of work today. I think they are proud how they pushed themselves at the gym today. I think they are proud at how they showed up and shifted their mindset. But they, at the end of this day with this question, won't be honest. And they're very prone to say, no, I didn't make myself proud because they're just used to the shame narrative. So if that's a little more you, I want you to watch out for that. I want you to watch out for that and give credit where credit's due. On the other hand, I have a whole other set of clients who won't be honest with themselves, not because of self-criticism, but actually because they just coddle themselves. They don't want to feel like they didn't do well enough. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. So they will lie to themselves. They will slap on a really positive, yeah, I made myself really proud and this was really good, even if they let themselves down. So in this question, what I'm really doing when I ask myself, did I make myself proud today? Am I proud of how I showed up for myself and my goals? I really think through, who do I say that I want to be? What are the results I want? Like, who do I really say that I want to be? Did I operate on par with that version of myself? And going back to question 2 and question 1 as well, did I keep my word to myself? Did I show up as the version that I want to be today, as the version of myself with results? And if I did the things that I said I was going to do, if I operated to that high standard of who I want to become, yeah, I made myself proud. But I also am really honest where I didn't. I'm more neutral about it. And so I'm honest on, did I meet my expectations? Were my expectations unrealistic? So for example, on Tuesday, actually, I just have a weirder schedule day. Like I'm on and I have little pockets of work. And I often schedule my weeks forgetting that Tuesdays I don't have as much time to actually physically get work done for my own business. And so I set a bunch of projects to do on Tuesday. And at the end of the day, it was like, did you make yourself proud? And I was like, well, no. But part of the reason why was I set really crazy expectations of what I could achieve in time that I didn't have. And so it's also auditing yourself there. And with this question, it's also like, did I give myself an out? Like, where did I give myself an out of not making myself proud? Where did I let myself down? And it's about being honest, even when it's uncomfortable. And also with that, it's both simultaneously sitting with the discomfort if you fell short and giving credit where credit's due. Like genuinely giving credit where credit is due today. And with each of these questions, if you answer no to them, no, I didn't show up as I wanted to today. I didn't show up as that version of myself who's going to get the results. And I didn't show up to the standards of who I really want to be. No, I didn't keep my word to myself today. No, I didn't make myself as proud today as I wanted to. What I want you to do is audit why. Audit why. And if you have resistance to auditing why, explore what you're avoiding. Because the reason so many people don't want to audit themselves is because they don't want to figure out what they're going to find. If you can start auditing yourself, and initially it's going to be more uncomfortable. You'll get very, very used to it as you go. But once you can audit why that happened, why didn't I keep my word? Why didn't I live up to the expectations I set today? How can I be more of the person that I really want to be? You can start getting better and better and better every single day, closer and closer and closer. And when you become unrecognizable, a flip doesn't magically switch in your brain. You don't just completely transform. It is truly the momentum of you getting 2% better every single day. And this is a more analytical approach to it, obviously. And I've not always been taking this analytical approach, right? Sometimes it's just journaling and reflecting and more of the gratitude, but still coming from a place of like, how can I build my belief? How can I do even better? Where can I make myself proud? Still doing that as well. But this becoming unrecognizable, this transformation, this 180 on everything, this really big up level, it's going to come from who you are on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't just happen. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they don't audit themselves. They're not honest with themselves. They let themselves off the hook. And then they wonder why, if they zoom out, they're living the same year as 2024 or as the year prior, or why they've stagnated. It's because of this. It's because we need to be really intentional on a day-to-day basis of who we are being. All right. So I want you to really audit if you're not yeses across the board. Why? And not from a place of shame. Never. You guys should know this by now from being in my world. None of this is coming from a place of shame. It's okay if you feel healthy shame around it. And if you don't know what that is, go join my anti-quitter 10-day challenge. It's free. But it's okay to feel healthy shame around it because healthy shame actually inspires you to be better. But if you're shaming yourself, we don't want that. This is really to be expansive. This is really to help you be better and better and better. And it's only up. It's literally only up, okay? If you're not 3 for 3 yeses consistently and you can't look at yourself and be like, yeah, I am consistently making myself proud, keeping my word to myself and going up and up and up. If you're not those 3 for 3, I want you to come join Audacious. I really want you to come on Join Audacious. Inside, I teach you my formula for building confidence that gets real results, that you get to 10x your results financially, physically, emotionally, mentally. This isn't about you just hoping for the best and hoping that you transform. This is about becoming the version of yourself who is so confident that it is impossible not to notice. We're talking about delusional levels of self-belief that have you stepping up your discipline, your self-trust, how you show up for yourself, the amount of action that you take until you very, very quickly actually transform into someone who you're like, I can't believe this is me and how I show up for myself and how fast this happened. And when you get in that kind of energy, that is really where it becomes unrecognizable. That is where you do this 180. That is where the really big things happen. And it starts with these small questions. It starts with these small actions. And inside Audacious, we focus on this. This is the kind of stuff we focus on. So an aspect that we just added to Audacious that I'm super excited about, that is often the vibe of what this podcast was, is we have a whole module called Daily Drops, which is every single day, 365 days a year, there is a new training that drops. And the training comes up. So let's say the day you're watching or listening to this, that training will only be available for 24 hours before it disappears and the next one comes. And what this really does is help you show up and commit to doing the daily work for yourself that translates to, shocker, what we just talked about with these 3 questions. And each video helps you get either physically, emotionally, financially, mentally, experientially richer. I love it. It's so good. And then you have literally the rest of the videos to help you build that delusional self-belief, that discipline, and the ability to fully become the version of who you've been wanting to become. I hope you love this episode. I hope it was helpful. I hope you ask yourself these 3 questions. And I would love to have you join Audacious and make 2025 the year that you do not play small, you do not be passive about what you want, and you completely create all the results that you're wanting in life. All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening. That was this week's episode. I would love, love, love if you would share this to your stories. Let the people know that you're listening. Tag me, tell them to come listen. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button so that you and I can hang out every single week, me kicking your ass, giving you the tough love that you need, and really just having you become the person that you want to be. All right. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. Catch you next week.